Your Excellency, Mr. Lassen, Minister of Environment and Food, distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be here in the beautiful city of Copenhagen for the first time to attend this second World Summit on a very important topic on better food for more people. As the speakers before me said, there's nothing that binds humanity better than food. Bonds of food cross cultures, country, continents. Today it's cuisines, each other's cuisines that we relish and our food that we trade in openly and freely. So I would say that food diplomacy and food is something, like before me everybody said, there's nothing more important that binds humanity as a necessity and as something to enjoy and to share. Which makes the topic today, better food for more people, extremely relevant, especially when I speak about India in a country like Denmark. A tiny city, when you compare it with India, don't get me wrong, Mr. Minister. A tiny city with a small population, which has distinguished itself globally in the area of food production and food processing. As a global leader, Danish agriculture among the most efficient, innovative, well-developed in the world, and leading in food quality and food safety as well as in research and development. Therefore, coming from a big country of 1.4 billion people population, probably some of our cities have the population the size of your country. The entire Europe population put together is probably not even half the population of my country. So when I come from a big country with a big population to a small country with a small population that has achieved the highest standards in food processing, food development, and food research, it makes a role model for my country, which is the largest producer of food. One of the largest producers, the second largest producer actually. We produce the largest amount of milk that is produced in the world. India is the second largest producer of fruits, of vegetables, of cereals, of meat, of fish in the world. Be it organic, be it aromatic, be it herbal, be it spice, with 127 agroclimatic zones, 7,500 coastline, India is a huge resource of food. But at the same time, we're very nascent where our food processing is concerned because we process only 10% of the food that we produce. Whereas smaller countries like yours produce almost 60, 70, maybe 80% you process of the food that you produce. Well, after listening to what the speakers before me said, it actually highlights to me sometimes the fact that how the other side of the fence always looks greener. You're talking about eating processed food. I come from a country where we believe in eating 3 full meals of fresh cooked food. But while we produce that huge amount of food which feeds 1.4 billion people, I also highlight over here that due to the lack of processing, we waste food almost to the amount of $15 billion per year annually. Almost 40% of our food is wasted. And it's wasted due to the lack of infrastructure. It's wasted at harvest level. It's wasted at transportation. It's wasted at storage. And in a country which is growing the way that it is, with more mouths to feed every year, with land holding shrinking, I would totally agree with the Honorable Minister who said that food wastage is morally wrong, and which is why my government is committed to waging a war against wastage with zero tolerance for food wastage. And I would say that this should be a global concern, because when I say that we are 1.4 billion people, we also highlight the fact that probably on this globe, every 6th individual is an Indian. And if, God forbid, tomorrow India cannot, for some odd reason, with the vagaries of weather, with climate control becoming the way that it is, with global warming happening, if for some odd reason there happens to be a famine and India does not produce the food that it does, and there's a shortage in India, and we're forced to import food, imagine what's going to happen in the rest of the world. So when I come here today, To promote the opportunities in the food processing sector of India, I appeal to all of you over here that it would actually be a national service, a global service to humanity, if you were to partner with us to help us learn from your technologies on how to reduce wastage and how to increase availability of our food, not just for India, but for the universe as a whole. Today, under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Modi, India is a transformed country. It's a country where it's a land of opportunity, especially in the food processing sector, which is what I would like to highlight today. As I have mentioned that we are one of the largest producers of food in the world, and obviously we are also one of the largest consumers of food in the world. Today, India's food and grocery market is the 6th largest in the world. Our retail sector is $600 billion annually, and this is set to double by 2020 in the next 3 years. Now, out of this $600 billion retail sector, 70% of it is food retail sector, which is set to treble by 2020. So that is the kind of market that we offer. Today, India is one of the fastest growing economies with our GDP at 7.1%. We have taken a number of steps to ensure ease of doing business. We have taken huge economic reforms under the dynamic leadership of my Honorable Prime Minister of rolling in goods and service tax to ensure India becomes one nation, one tax. And as, like I said, the focus of the government and of the Honorable Prime Minister is to reduce food wastage, to increase the revenue and the earnings of our farmers, and to ensure more availability of food, and thus keep inflation in control. The government has taken a series of steps to encourage the food processing sector. We are the 3rd largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity, and our expenditure on food is expected to double from its current levels in the next 6 years. So when I say that India's food sector today is high growth and high profitability, and highlighting that would be the fact that how the government in the last 3 years has taken a number of policies to create the infrastructure and fill in those infrastructure gaps that is the reason for our nascent food processing levels. 42 mega food parks are coming up all across India with a hub and spoke model where common facilities are being created. So people do not have to put in the entire investment. They can come and lease office space and make use of those common facilities to process their food. Raw material is already available in abundance. We are working towards making a cold chain grid in India so that there's seamless transfer of food from production area to the consumption areas. We're working at making backward and forward linkages to connect the farmers to the processors. We're coming up with a grid of food testing labs, in skill development, in small cluster development. And for all this infrastructure, the government has incentivized by sanctioning almost $1 billion of money to create this infrastructure, which is going to be created within the next 24 months. This infrastructure is going to leverage further investment worth almost $6 billion within the next 2-3 years. And with this infrastructure, we are going to be processing agro-produce almost to the amount of 334 million metric tons worth the value of $15 billion, which will benefit 2.5 million farmers and create almost 500,000 jobs. So when I say that India is a land of opportunities, it is a land of major opportunities in the food processing sector for all those countries and all those people who want to expand their footprints and want to expand their market. If the Western market is stagnant or slowing, India is a growing economy with a rising middle class with huge amounts of disposable income, wanting what is available in the world to be available for them in the food sector in India. Today, I invite all of you to partner with us. We have made a number of policy decisions to allow 100% foreign direct investment in food, which is in multi-brand retail of food, which is produced and manufactured in India. Due to our policies, due to this creation of infrastructure, allowing our markets to open up, we have seen a 40% increase in foreign direct investment in the food processing sector from last year to this year itself. Of course, I would also like to highlight here that being the fastest growing economy in the world, India has attracted the highest amount of foreign direct investment in our country in the history of India 2 years consecutively. So that goes to show the policies of the government and the kind of impetus that the country is receiving and the kind of assurance it is giving to all people wanting to invest their money in India. As a result of the proactive policy reforms, not only has there been an increase in the foreign direct investment, but the rollout of the goods and service tax, which is one nation, one tax, like I said, the biggest economic reform which has taken place in recent history, has been a huge step in ensuring ease of doing business in India, and which is why probably the World Bank says that India is the one bright spot in a gloomy global economy. So when I say that India is a land of opportunities, not just in the food sector where you have the potential to come and tap this Indian market and partner with us in giving us your technology, your know-how. We are also geographically located in close proximity to food importing nations like Japan and UAE who are looking at India as a sourcing hub. So when I see the opportunities of India and I see the interest that it has caused, it has created in many progressive and advanced food processing countries, we decided to offer a platform where we could partner to learn and to offer our market for expansion of business of people who want to come in, and which is why we are holding the first big food festival in India, which is actually World Food India 2017 on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of November this year, which is going to be the biggest fair of its kind to offer the opportunities to partner, grow, and prosper together. I would also like to highlight here that India, as a country, has cuisines which differ from one state to the other the way it probably differs from one country to the other. And when you think of Indian food, I'm sure most of you will think that Indian food just, I don't say about Chef Rene, but I'm sure most of you think that Indian food just consists of some Indian curry, because when I go to your retail stores, if I look at the Indian section, there may be an Indian curry or some butter masala tikka or a basmati rice or a Darjeeling tea, and that's India for you. But let me tell you, in India, the beverage, the cuisine, the dessert of my state is totally different to the state on my left, to the state on my right, and to the state in front of me and the state behind me. Each state has its own unique cuisine, its unique flavor, its unique spices, its unique way of cooking, its unique beverage, its unique dessert. So to offer you an opportunity to taste the flavors of India and see what you would like to take back to your big retail stores and to your countries, we have World Food India, which has as a part of it World Food Street as well, which is going to be very different to the way things are in Anuga or in Sial, the big food fairs, of course. Our fair is going to be much bigger because we're going to have all our states showcasing their opportunities, their foods, their tie-ups, their policies. And we're looking at all major food countries internationally, globally, worldwide, coming and participating to see what they can offer and how they can tap the Indian market to increase their own business. And while business takes place, the World Food Street will give you an opportunity to taste the cuisines of India. And at the same time, there will be all countries which will get a chance to showcase their food. And like often people tell me, yes, we want to come and make in India, but we don't know whether Indians will like what we are making, and we don't want to put up the infrastructure and then find the Indian palate doesn't like it. So give us an opportunity. So here in World Street India, Food Street India, you will have a live opportunity of having your product tasted on the Indian palate and see the reaction firsthand. And if you find that, oh, what we are processing in Denmark and what we are producing over here, the Indians love it, you can go and do a tie-up in any of our mega food parks or across any of our states and start producing and tapping that 1.4 billion market that we have to offer to you. And yes, the very interesting thing about this, we hope to have lots of chefs. I invite Chef Rene also to come there. And we hope to come up with a Gen Next cuisine where it may be Indian ingredients and your cuisine or our spices and your food, and together come up with a new global food, which, like we said, that there's nothing that binds people and humanity better than food. So I would invite you all to come and participate in this World Food India. be a part of this wonderful experience of the food street, and come and partner with my country to help us control these wastages, because in a country like India with a huge population where we grow such a huge amount of food, it is indeed sad if 40% of that food gets wasted, and at the same time, the farmers don't get their due remuneration for the hard work that they are doing by growing that food, and not to forget the natural resources that are getting wasted every time food gets wasted. So when I say that we look towards countries like Denmark and all of you present over here to partner with us, to teach us your technology, your know-how, to offer you our market for your business to prosper and grow, and to learn from what you have learned and move towards a sustainable growth for better food for more people. And at the same time, that balance between, is it processed food because we only use fresh food, and there is still 70% malnutrition in adolescent girls of my country. So is processed food better or is fresh food better? I think the conversation can go on. There are pros and cons. When I look at it from my side, I find your developed economies, that side of the grass, a lot greener. And from what people before me have been speaking, that you need to go back to fresh food. Well, we grow up on fresh food, but it has its backside, its drawbacks as well. So I think the key word is to maintain the balance. You must have processed and you must have fresh, and most importantly, you must share food together, which binds you together, and like the Honorable Minister said, wage a war for zero tolerance against wastage. Because it is indeed shocking that if globally we waste food the size of what is a China, the food which is grown in the size of a country like China gets wasted annually, which is almost $940 billion worth of food getting wasted, which is the GDP of certain countries like Indonesia. Can we afford that? I think we all need to think together. In the Western countries, you waste it on your plate. In my country, most people sleep without a stomach full of food, and many die of hunger. And yet my country is wasting more food than your country is wasting. So somewhere we need to come together and bind this humanity, bind this globe together to learn from each other. While we share our foods freely with each other, let's learn and share our technologies with each other to help those countries to come up where the wastage is happening, and the countries which are abundant with food to share our food with those countries where the food may not be enough. So I thank you all for giving me this opportunity for being here, and I hope to see all of you at World Food India, which is happening for the first time in India, a platform which I'm sure you will enjoy, experience, and go back with wonderful memories. Thank you so much.